Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewie.
Kia ora, Pat.
Now, I know you're not all that keen in this, Chewie, but I was thinking maybe we should use one of the StreamYard's new features and like zhuzh it up a bit. Should we zhuzh at all?
It's not that I don't like it, Pat. It's that it's too late. We missed it.
Not going
We
to
missed
zhuzh
the
it up a bit?
Halloweens.
We'll have to, what would we do? I don't know, have to design our own little things. There you go. You can eat your pumpkin all night long.
Like if it was up a little bit more and my head was just a pumpkin full of candy, I'd be okay with that.
I don't think we should talk about Chewie eating his pumpkin because, you know, that has connotations to it. Kia ora whānau. How are you all? Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good one. And thank you for being back with us tonight. Wow, what a big day for, I guess you'd just say, progressive left-wing politics. Not just left, but progressive left-wing politics in the world today. And as we talked about last night, will there be a continuation of this obvious populist movement through sort of corporate Democratic Republicans, or will they still try and hold on to their, for want of a better word from outside of the political world, their baubles of office to stay in that sort of the sort of, you've got the blue side and the red side, but then the red side in America are kind of light blue and the blue side in America are kind of light red. You know, there's that sort of mishmashing of how different, and then you've got Bernie Sanders and his crew. Right, and so that's what we're looking at. So we're gonna that's pretty exciting. We've got a story to play from One News. I was watching a bunch of content creators through the afternoon. Watched Emma and Sam on the Majority Report. They were live streaming until about 4 o'clock New Zealand time, which would have been about 2 in the morning over there. And I saw Breaking Point's doing some stuff as well, and yeah, just keeping an eye on it. It's pretty big old day. Don't mess with the Zohran. That's all I remember saying. So that's big. That's huge. Also, a very, very funny commentary. Yes, well, not funny, but funny as in, isn't it hilarious when yesterday the Prime Minister gets asked a direct question from the leader of the opposition about homelessness and homeless people in the CBD, rough sleepers, and he goes, well, no, Cabinet hasn't even talked about it. And then less than 24 hours later, we hear ministers in the government talking about it. So either the ministers have talked about this without the Prime Minister there and not around the Cabinet table, or what's that word you're not allowed to say in the House, Chewie? He's what? What does he do?
Liars.
Liars. Could
Liars.
be that. Could be that. Interesting, though, as well. We've got some footage to show from that. But the actual rough sleeping story, I guess I didn't watch One News tonight. I just looked at the clips. There's no clips around. If anyone's seen any stories on that, that's got video to it, feel free to chuck it in the chat. And happy to use your resources. I've got we're going to play the audio from yesterday, Chippy in the House, because it's even funnier when you watch it again and you watch him ask the question and the Prime Minister says no. And also I've got the full kind of 2.5 minutes, not just the 8 seconds that TVNZ and TV3 showed yesterday. So there you go. We've also got, oh, sorry, I heard a breathe in. Sorry, yes.
Pat, you forgot. Chewie woke up in the best way this morning to the news that Dick Cheney was dead.
Yeah.
He
didn't have a bionic heart or something at one stage, didn't he actually?
Or just a complete lack of one. I don't know. But we should all pour one out for Dick Cheney. And by one, I mean a big jug of piss. That man is the architect of the invasion of Iraq, and you can conservatively hang about 4.5 million people dead on that man's shoulders. And not only the million plus Iraqis, his company, Halliburton, he was a major shareholder in Halliburton, profited off sending American troops into combat in urban centres with gear that wasn't up to snuff. So he's a war profiteer and a war criminal, and now he's dead. And maybe that's why the air feels a little bit lighter.
I have a question.
Good day.
Sorry for my, I get a bit confused with words somewhere. Is pouring one out for Dick Cheney the same as rubbing one out for Dick Cheney? Is that the same thing?
All I can say is I accomplished both this morning. So
You're a bad man. Even if I set you up, you still have to go down that path to be a bad man.
yeah.
All right, Whānau. So lots going on tonight, lots of stuff to talk about, and let's kick it all off because, of course, oh gosh, was it the biggest news story of the day? Certainly the biggest New Zealand news story of the day, probably, was the new unemployment numbers. And we have joining us from the Green Party, the spokesperson for social development and employment. It's Ricardo Menéndez March, joining us live from Parliament. Ricardo, kia ora.
Kia ora, good to be here.
Yoda.
Now, before we came on, you were telling us how you offended David Seymour. We would like to hear that story first, please, that you had just come up from the debating chamber. What happened? Because that's another good news story if someone offended him. What was that?
Well, look, we've been debating the Regulatory Standards Bill at Committee of the Whole House, so that's an opportunity to unpack some of the more specific stuff in the bill while in the chamber. I had an amendment that I wanted to discuss, which was under Chloe's name, to make sure that we, and the purpose of this bill, add to Te Reti o Waitangi, which I thought was going to be not a controversial thing because this is a bill about quality lawmaking. And when I question whether the property rights that David Seymour were pushing were for some people rather than others, he seemed to take it as implying that I meant he didn't care about Māori property rights, which was just nonsensical. And he took offense to that, which to me just tells me that he doesn't want to face the truth, which is this is a bill that is actively trampling onto Te Reti and, enabling corporate greed via a regulatory framework for lawmaking.
Hey, while you're here, completely off the topic now, but speaking of Te Reti, I think we here in New Zealand, and I think it's fair to look at the treaty as in sort of our founding document. It's not quite the same as the Constitution, but it often gets referred to as our founding document. And I was wondering if in America, Republicans got up and said that from now on, schools have no obligation to speak to the Constitution, how that would be received in America, because that feels like that's what they've done in New Zealand with their obligations to Te Reti within schools. You've just brought up, sort of bringing the treaty into it, Te Reti into it. What do you have any thoughts around that news story from yesterday around schools no longer needing to show obligations towards Te Reti?
I think it's deeply problematic, right? But beyond that, I think we're in this era where the far right is just so hell-bent in rewriting history and telling a history where Indigenous peoples have no place, where they want to pretend that colonial powers have been in this country since forever time, or that Indigenous people ceded sovereignty. And so I think it's like the challenge with the US is that even their own constitution in some ways was not even made with Indigenous peoples in mind. What we do have for us in our country that makes us unique is that we do have a document that guarantees sovereignty for Māori. And yeah, like I'm by no means surprised that the government is removing Te Reti in the education space, because Te Reti isn't just some sort of like culture wars item. It's a foundational document that grants sovereignty for a group of people, but also more broadly protects us against huge corporations that are wishing to extract resources from our natural environment. And so it's all in line with the government's agenda of selling us off to the highest bidder and taking all the profits that come with it offshore.
It is always kind of hilarious when we talk about the Constitution and all men are made equal, obviously other than Indigenous Americans, obviously other than the slaves. Let's be honest, other than the Irishmen coming across to work in places. So they always left out that little line of all sort of white men of a certain standing in society are created equal. That's kind of what it should say, but it doesn't say. Hey, listen, let's do this if you're cool with it. You know how we roll. We want to have a look at the one news story from tonight about the job numbers. That's the reason we've got you here, and the unemployment numbers being at record highs. I believe, I think I watched the 3 News item, and I believe they said this is the most people in New Zealand unemployed since about 1994. Obviously, it's the highest percentage since 2016. So obviously there's, but the actual number being right up there since the 1990s is pretty big. So let's have a look what this government, the government of business, the government to get us back on track, the government who's going to fix the economy, has done today and says today about unemployment numbers. And let's be honest, how long it takes them to blame Labour. We'll put that in there as well.
Back here, New Zealand's unemployment rate is at a 9-year high, ticking up to 5.3%. That number up to more than 15% for young Kiwis.
Wow.
But as business correspondent Jason Walls reports, some employers still can't fill jobs.
Queenstown, New Zealand's tourism mecca, gearing up for the summer rush. But there's a problem.
We always have job ads running, and usually the traction we get is crazy. Whereas this year, for the first time in a very long time, we're not actually getting many come through at all.
This Queenstown recruitment agent says it's tough finding people to fill jobs.
We've got a sign outside that says apply today, start tomorrow, but it would actually be apply today, start today.
But Queenstown is bucking the trend. Its unemployment rate at 2.5%, far lower than other regions. Unemployment for the wider country today hitting 5.3%.
I wonder if that's because in Queenstown, as you know, Chewie, people can't afford to live in Queenstown who work at Queenstown. So I wonder if they went to one step outside Queenstown, the numbers would jump quite dramatically, because that's where all the workers for Queenstown live, not actually in Queenstown. So in Queenstown, yeah, all the wealthy retirees and stuff, they're not unemployed, but the unemployed ones are now out in Franklin or further out in towards central Otago where they can actually afford to pay rent. And maybe that's got an impact as to the numbers looking so good for Queenstown unemployment.
Or roughly 160,000 people out of work. That's up just 0.1 of a percentage point on the previous quarter, but it's the highest number since 2016. The picture worsens for young people aged between 15 and 24. Unemployment for them, 15.2%. This employer not taking on any summer casuals over the Christmas break.
Yeah, that's been being said the last couple of days of whānau. I haven't heard that. One of the big things is like malls who normally hire people to wrap presents, they're not doing that this time around. So there's this normal upswing in jobs coming into Christmas. There's reports that just people, and I guess this is what the story's going to say, just people aren't going to do that this time around. So, which is going to make it even worse for people who potentially normally can get some kind of holiday work to help them through the season. A lot of that's not going to be available this year.
And I normally would take maybe one or two, definitely one, for the extra increase in business. Certainly won't this year.
One issue, the underutilisation rate. That's people who want to work more hours than they currently do. Student Job Search says that's a problem.
Students may have secured one role, but they really need several more to make up the level of hours that they need to be able to sustain their costs, their living costs, in terms of, rent and food and transport.
These students say even getting an interview right now is tough.
I've worked here for 6 months now, I think, and it took about 40 applications of jobs to get here.
A lot of my friends, they've applied to, I would say, at least 100, and still haven't got a role.
Meanwhile, back in Queenstown, this recruiter trying anything to get candidates to apply.
We try and sweeten them by pies. Everyone loves a pie, so we do drops to our candidates.
A sweeter deal than many others across the country are receiving.
All right, we'll leave them to their own analysis. I have got some clips from 3 as well, which is specifically Nicola Willis speaking. But first of all, Ricardo, you are here with us from the Greens in your capacity as the spokesperson for social development and employment. Happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, look, I think what is really clear is that the government actively drop up unemployment. And, when I was listening to the story from One News in relation to Queenstown, I think you were right in that we can't compare apples to pears. Queenstown's got a very unique economy, which is mostly based on tourism, hospitality, and you're right, all the retirement villages propping up around it. And I think, one of the issues and stories that I was working on a few weeks ago was around the fact that all well and fine to say that we've got people in Queenstown who are crying out for workers, but effectively the Prime Minister is expecting people to relocate all the way to Queenstown from across the country for it. And the support, for example, that exists for people to relocate has not even been updated in some instances of the kind of support in almost 20 years. And all of this, when I think about it in the bigger picture, is that unemployment is baked into the economic system, right? Like no government of Labour or national stripes have ever intended to bring unemployment to 0%. It's literally a function of capitalism.
Yeah.
And then what that means is you'll always have a group of unemployed people. And the question then becomes, should those unemployed people deserve to live in poverty? And for me, the answer is no. For the Greens, the answer is no. But more than that, it's also, should governments be choosing to actively drive up unemployment, in order to tackle inflation? And the answer is also no. There are other ways to tackle inflation. It does not require pushing workers into below the poverty line income levels. And so when I hear the government talking about how, it was inevitable and this is just a side effect of the economic times, it's BS, frankly, because they themselves have chosen to cut thousands of jobs. And for example, if you look at the public housing projects, they literally decimated our construction sector by just stopping all these housing builds that were not just good for jobs, but would have also addressed our growing homelessness crisis.
Out of interest, the Greens, and I think probably most people watching and listening, don't think that people should have to live in poverty, even those who are on some kind of unemployment benefit. What's the solution, especially for those who are on some kind of, subsidy or benefit from the government, to not living in poverty? Is it just as simple as paying them more?
Well, I'm really proud that we're the only political party who doesn't believe that, but has a plan to address it. And I've been really disappointed with previous successive governments, Labour and National, who have condemned unemployed people to poverty. The answer to that is twofold. One of them is to increase benefit levels above the poverty line to allow people to live well, to end benefit sanctions, to end things like the relationship rules. That means that if you're unemployed and you're deemed to have a partner that has a job, that you basically can't get a benefit most of the time. And then the other side to this is that the government has to take an active role in creating jobs. And that's why we've put a plan to create 40,000 jobs in the construction and manufacturing sector, because we used to make things in this country and we can do it again. And so I think it's a matter of looking at both giving dignity to the welfare system, as well as taking a much more active role in planning the economy and creating jobs so that we can have good housing, so that we don't have to export raw wood to then have it processed offshore and then imported back for construction materials. And I think all of those things are things that will just lift the standards of living to one that I think most people would expect that we have. And certainly we project to the world as though we have these standards of living that we actually do not anymore.
Just before I chuck it to you, Chewie, I've just done a Google search. New Zealand does not have a single official poverty line, but uses several relative measures, primarily based on percentage of the median household income. 50% of the median household income costs in the 23-24 financial year set on an annual household income of $23,741, $455 a week. So whilst we're not asking you to lock it down, but is that sort of what you'd be talking about? If you're on a benefit, you'd get no less than $455 a week. That would be sort of how you work out that poverty line?
And ideally, we should be working towards the baseline benefits getting there, right? I think the challenge that we had is that we've got all these additional top-ups that are like incredibly situational. And beyond that, I think, the other measure we do have in this country to measure poverty, although mostly for children, is our child poverty measurements. What we do know from those is that this definition we have, it's called child material hardship. It's a measurement as to whether children have literally the basics to the basics, that's it. And that's projected to go up, right? So what we do know is that over the past few years and into the future, more children are growing up in households where there's not even enough for the basics. And that should tell us something, right? Because you can't really decouple child poverty from adult poverty. Behind every child living in poverty, there's likely to be caregivers that are also living in poverty. So that's, for us, one of the most concerning statistics and measurements that we should be tackling. And so, lifting benefit levels to livable levels, ending sanctions, the relationship rules, and creating jobs need to be absolutely part of it. And we should not be accepting any less.
Chewie, something for Ricardo?
Oh, look, I've had so much comments here. Any story about unemployment that starts in Queenstown should be instantly disregarded. Like
he was having his weekend away. It was obviously the reporter was away for the weekend. I'll just do it while I'm here.
Like Queenstown is not part of New Zealand. Like it's somewhere that people travel to, work and live. Nobody that lives there It's so expensive. There's nowhere to live. Why did he not go to Tokoroa or any of the other places that have a high unemployment and a primary industry that's been taken out recently?
But this is exactly the thing. Queensland should be part of, like, I mean, to your point that Queensland's not part of New Zealand. It should feel like it's part of New Zealand. It should feel like a place people can live. It should be a place for locals to have affordable rents and decent jobs. And I think, when I think about house prices and rent prices, Queensland's actually the perfect place for us to be focusing on those solutions because, as you said, the fact that locals cannot see themselves living in New Zealand, and for example, the migrant workers who are in Queenstown, the ones that I have met, struggle to make ends meet, and literally many of them live in substandard conditions, says that we've created an economy that is highly dependent on tourism, on low-value exports, and that we should turn it around and take a much more active role in the economy to create high-value exports, but actually to also make things in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to hear from stories about how somewhere like Timaru is doing with their freezing works being closed down. Like, how do you pivot that many workers into other industries and other jobs? That's an interesting story. That's something that's happened under this government, and that is something that has been replicated from one end of the country to the other. Bad media, bad reporter. I shake my finger at you. The question I have for you, Ricardo, is with the talk of pushing homeless people out of sight, out of mind, out of the CBD, how can that be successful if you're not pushing them into homes that are there for them? You're just pushing them out into the secondary areas, and then it's going to be repeated and repeated and repeated.
It's NIMBYism, absolutely NIMBYism.
Yeah.
As long as I can't see them, then I don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, I mean, it's deeply concerning, and I just want to give a shout out to Chloe Sorbrick, our co-leader, who's been working with social service providers since before the news broke out, because we got caught wind of it. And, for us, the first priority is to work with people on the ground to make sure that we can push back, but then also work with the agencies that will have to pick up the work to find solutions. The other part of it is that, yeah, you're completely right. This is literally copying just yet another failed policy from the places like the US, where homeless people are pushed into the fringes. And, who is this serving? But, for example, the cruise ship industry. This is not serving our local communities. This is all to serve an industry that actually does not create a decent amount of jobs locally, that does not actually keep the profits within our shores, and simply is pushing people who have been failed by successive governments to the fringes, into much more vulnerable situations. One of the things, while we address homelessness, that we can at least be conscious of is that a lot of our social services do exist in close proximity to central city areas. And I think pushing people into areas where those social services may not exist will only aggravate the issue. And look, I know this has been for locals, has been a really challenging discussion, because I think, these issues compound harm. The fact is that also homeless people are even more at risk of crime themselves, even though they're often painted as the more likely to commit crime groups. They're actually some of our most vulnerable communities when it comes to being targeted by violent crime. And so this will only hide the problem. And I just think back to the John Key era of 2016, 17, where, the government was in denial of the fact that there was a homelessness crisis, but it was because it was out of sight. It was people living in cars, parked up in car parks, hidden out of view. Some of the people who were living in cars in those car parks were working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Because to your points around the job losses in areas like Timaru, et cetera, when you get thrown into a benefit and you're dealing with other issues in your life, you're actually quite likely to get into debt. That debt in and of itself makes it even harder to get out of poverty later down the line. And it all compounds and spirals into deep, deep poverty that can be really hard to get out of. And this is why a safety net is really important, because no one should be condemned to homelessness, debt, or any of these issues because they lost their job.
There's also that thing about, it's an American issue, but I'm sure we see it here, of the underemployment. And the biggest recipient of welfare, of benefit or government money in America is Walmart. And that's because they don't pay their workers enough, and their workers can't survive on the money they're getting. They're underemployed. And so then they get subsidies from the government, and therefore Walmart has I mean, I'm not going to say it's slave labor, but they're getting incredibly cheap labor to make their huge amounts of money, and they're getting their workers' salaries topped up by the government because they're not earning enough. Let me put this out there as well, because this is the same sort of same conversation we're having. As I've been talking to the guys from, I think it's the Zero Hunger Collective. Beneficiaries, pensioners don't have enough money for basics report. This is terrifying. Their latest research. I've been emailing with them to try and get them on this week. We'll see what happens. But Ka Makona, the Zero Hunger Collective, has issued its latest annual report, which notes, you ready for this? 27% of children, it's 1 in 4 children, are living in food insecure households. So that means in your average classroom, 30 kids, 7 of them, between kind of 7 and 8 of them, are coming from households that are food insecure. And it's we always brag about being the belly of the world. We feed so many hundreds of millions of people. Yet we have a system here where people are struggling to buy butter, which is made just down the road from where they live, and then be able to feed their kids well enough. We shouldn't be facing that in the 21st century.
Absolutely not. And look, that report I really welcome it. It also just confirms what many of us who have worked at the front lines, and I certainly did before being an MP, that we know that benefits are not enough to make ends meet. Most people can't survive on a benefit. And if you have any extraordinary thing happen to you, you just won't be able to, if you got for example, a health bill that you didn't expect, certainly that's going to cost you being able to afford your rent. And so, that report's really concerning. I also want to sort of make it clear that we do have to tackle supermarket greed, which is leading to high food prices as well. In saying that, I also want us to remain focused on the biggest cost for families, which is housing. And the reason why I say this is because every time that people, and right-wing economists talk about the green shoots in our economy finally showing, most of the time it's because our housing market starts overheating again, and we start seeing house prices going up, which in turn make this, the GDP figure, which right-wing politicians worship, go up as well. And why this is really concerning is that our economy is more and more being turned into a housing market with a few bits tacked on. That's not a real economy. It's not producing anything. It's just stripping people away from the means of being able to afford a living, while we stop creating things like construction materials, or, for example, investing in paper mills, which we had in Tokoroa up until the closure.
Just to go back to the original part of this conversation, which was unemployment, let's hear from Nicola Willis of 3 News tonight. She's talking specifically about the economic recovery.
We know that when economies recover from periods of high inflation and interest rates, that's when we get growth coming, that's when job creation.
Can you understand that you're projecting those new jobs, and that those are just words at this point? When are they actually going to come to fruition?
Well, what we are seeing is that there is a return of many firms having the opportunity to create jobs.
Zeal has observed.
Yeah, so word salad, mumble mouth answers. They have the opportunity to create jobs. Doesn't mean they're creating jobs. And I know that you're sitting literally in the house looking over, eyeballing them. But I guess from the outside sitting, looking in, we're like, they've been telling us this since a year before the election. And they're still saying, it's coming. They're not even saying just trust us. They're just saying it's coming. And good job by whoever that reporter was. You've been saying this for a long time. When are we going to see the jobs? You got any response to Nicola Willis there, Ricardo?
Because we can't leave it to the market. We simply cannot leave job creation to the market as something that will deliver good quality, high-paying jobs for people. This is why we have to take a much more active role in our economy, and we have to do much more planning within our economy. This is why we're fighting for things like a green jobs guarantee, because we're not just waiting for the market to magically make these jobs exist, but we're actually wanted to create them ourselves. through investing in public housing, through investment in our manufacturing sector. I am really sick and tired of Nicola Willis just literally pleading to our supermarket industry to lower food prices as though that will just naturally happen, or her pleading to corporations to create jobs as though they aren't at a time where many of these corporations are experiencing incredibly high profits and completely have the means and the resources to create jobs should they wish to, but instead they're wedded to deliver money to their shareholders instead of actually looking after the interests of everyday people. This is why Nicola Willis just hoping that these jobs will magically appear will never work, because big corporations are not being driven by issues like guaranteeing a job for everyday people, and instead are driven by issues like delivering value for shareholders, which make up, unfortunately, in the case of big corporations, the wealthy few.
Yeah. Chewie, I'd like to talk shortly about Mamdani, but anything else you got for Ricardo?
I may be reading way too much into what you're saying there, Ricardo, but I seem to hear a little echo, just getting louder and louder as you spoke, that just seemed to say into my ear, Green Ministry of Works. Green Ministry of Works.
It is our policy. It is literally our policy, yes. We do want a Green Ministry of Works, and we want a Green Jobs Guarantee. We do think that tens of thousands of jobs could be created, and we don't have to condemn young people to being punched down by a prime minister who does not care about their prospects. And so, absolutely, Green Ministry of Works, bring it on.
Yes.
All right, now we're going to have a look at a news story and cover off Mamdani a bit later in the show, Ricardo. But, he's sort of, there's been this progressive American world surrounding Bernie Sanders for a while, and then AOC and the Squad came on board, and now for like the fifth or sixth or seventh time in the last decade, all of a sudden this democratic socialist, this person who wants to actually actively attack the cost of living and help people live in, a bit like Queenstown, the people who work in New York actually be able to live in New York, has had a massive victory against Chris Cuomo. What did you guys think in the Greens about that big win today when it came out?
Oh, it's really exciting. I think any progressive leftists managing to make gains in the world is a win for our communities. And so I definitely was in a celebratory mood about it. I think what also was inspiring is to see someone unapologetically campaigning to tackle the cost of greed crisis, to have a really clear message on what he was hoping to deliver, which included things like free childcare, which is something that we've been campaigning on for free early childhood education and bringing it into the public system. And additionally, what I would make a point of difference from what I saw from Zohran compared to, say, Bernie, is that he was unapologetically supporting Palestine, right, from the get-go. And he didn't, while I can accept politicians will not always get it right 100% of the time, his message is probably the most unapologetic message I have seen from a high-profile American politician when it comes to standing up for justice on these issues. And what it shows is that often right-wing characters and people who have vested interests in supporting a genocide will try to get you to compromise, to appear palatable. But when I say compromise, I mean compromise on issues of human rights and valuing human lives. And it was really encouraging to see someone being able to hold it forward on affordability, as well as just valuing our collective human decency. And it shows that the left can win. And it shows that we shouldn't be afraid to go hard on the issues that matter to people and to stick to the issues that matter to people and not get distracted by imported cultural wars.
It always seems to be that idea that when you actually strip the policy or legislative ideas away from any political party, the progressive left policies are incredibly popular, but this tribal kind of world we live in that, well, it can't be a good policy because it's by the Democrats or it's by the Greens, and they don't even, if you look at the actual policies, it just echoes that idea that I've said for a long time, which is the left makes policy and the right responds to policy. And I hope that in America they take this as a sign that actually where Zohran stands is a popular place and others should follow. I guess we're a bit different here because kind of the Greens evoke more of that Zohran feel. So we sort of already have a sector of our community doing that. But I think it's quite exciting, and I have zero faith that the Democrats will pick up the ball and run with it quietly. Chewie, your thoughts?
But the call to action to people here should be that Zohran just magically didn't happen because he made cool social media videos. He made it happen because he had people on the ground, phone banking, and door knocking. And if people want to not just change the government, but actually have a government of change, we need people to come out and door knock and phone bank for us this election in order to put these policies in place. That is actually, in my view, the strongest thing he had when it came to the campaign. He had a good ground game and discipline and message. But I think, overseas, we see the cool social media stuff. We don't see the unglamorous thousands and thousands of phone calls and door knocking that people did. And we need people here to show up too. And I look forward to doing that next year.
Yeah, the grunt work. Someone in the chat said that he was at 1% last year. That goes to say. Chewie, got any thoughts around all hail to the king, Zohran? Or not king?
So
you can't say king. There's no kings.
First of all, I think it is a win in spite of the Democrat Party as well. They still don't know what to do about him. And I really worry that left-ish parties are going to sort of miss the correct message here, that it is concentrating on what matters to people. One of the things that I was most impressed with Zohran with is that every time someone came at him with some culture war stuff, no, I'm worried about the cost of living. I'm worried about making sure that New Yorkers can live in New York. I'm worried about food insecurity. And he just kept pushing. And this is the thing, it's so tempting for everyone. We're guilty of this as well, right? Jumping into the pool of culture wars and going, no, well, this feels important, I'm going to do it. It might be real button issues for people. And I'm not trying to diminish how important those issues are to those people. But the core mission here is, if I can bring it back to us now, change the government, do things to benefit the people over the organizations or the companies and that sort of thing. And that authenticity, that's something that I've spoken about a lot on the show as well. I think Zohran's authenticity rang through everything. What you saw in the social media was what you saw in person, was what you saw in the debates. And people went, well, this is a consistent, authentic message from an authentic person. And I'm going to look at his opposition and go, I can see that difference. Now, I think that's something for our election next year, when we have Christopher Luxon, who is often seen as out of touch, inauthentic, all of those things, that you need to put up someone authentic to combat him, not someone that is like him, but a bit nicer.
Yeah, it's always that classic example. Sorry to bring it back to sort of radio, but when Today FM started up, they tried to take on ZB with what ZB was doing, and they failed because there was already a ZB. They needed to have something that was sort of the opposite too. And if Luxon's inauthentic, you want authenticity. And the classic example, Zohran, that I think we all remember is in the debate when all the people in the debate were asked, when are you going to Israel? How long before you go to Israel? How long before you go? And Zohran just went, I've got no plans to go to Israel. I'm going to stay in New York and work for the New York people. And if there needs to be a conversation with the Jewish community, I'll do it in New York, the people that voted for me. And it was almost like politicians had never thought of that angle before. They'd never thought, we can't say no to anything to do with Israel. And he did, and it went down amazingly well. Any last thoughts, Ricardo? And then we'll let you go and keep beating up on David Seymour.
I think the key message for me is that, once again, we've got a job to do to not just change the government. I'm not satisfied with simply changing the government, because what we cannot afford is to just change the government and change management and not actually change how politics is done. And if you hate this government and want to put them out, I encourage you to volunteer with the party that you believe will best deliver that change. I know what I'm fighting for. We're fighting to make sure that we actually do have affordability at the core of what we do, and climate change is connected to it 100%. So for everyone listening who hates this government and wants to put them out, it's time to sign up to volunteer, because we've got a year to make this happen.
Before you go, Ricardo, we have a lovely viewer who often asks us questions about very isolated, located Wellington questions. But actually, Mr. Alex has asked a question that's more generalised. And if you're okay, I'll throw it at you because I'm interested in what you guys would think as well. Alex says, just wanting to ask Ricardo, since Winston has made it clear that fireworks ban is a part of a coalition discussion next year, is this something the Greens, I mean, if you know Labour, I guess, but the Greens are willing to negotiate? Do the Greens have an official position on banning or not banning fireworks?
We've always been strong supporters on animal welfare issues, and I acknowledge that that's an issue we need to tackle. When it comes to the bill, to be honest, New Zealand First hasn't approached us around it. We're yet to have a caucus discussion on that. And this is kind of why I'm so disappointed that New Zealand First treats this issue as like optics opportunities as opposed to genuinely try to reach cross-party support for them. And so we welcome New Zealand First reaching out and trying to have an adult conversation with us when it comes to the bill. And we've often pushed Winston Peters on animal welfare issues, and we certainly would be welcoming the opportunity to do the right thing for many communities who are put at risk as a result of the way we currently regulate fireworks.
Cool. Hey, when you're sitting in the House and one of your colleagues is a real zinger, really gets one of the opposition, is there like a secret way you sort of do a high five without doing a high five? Like, do you guys have a look? Is there a little sort of, do you do like a thumbs up, but it's got to be under the thing when there's a real good comeback? Is there anything that goes on? Or do you save it for afterwards and celebrate the fantastic
I think
zinger that came out?
There's a really cute clip of my colleague Francisco Hernandez and Celia White-Brown actually cheering to each other because now Parliament have used it in cutaways. So of course we celebrate each other when we I guess when we expose the government's cruel policies and we hold them to account. So yeah, absolutely. We do celebrate each other. Maybe not always in high fives because it's kind of loud in the chamber. Yeah.
Ricardo, thanks so much for joining us. If we don't speak to you again beforehand, because we are in that time of year, have a fantastic Christmas and a good new year. We may well speak to you before that anyway, but if we don't, have a good one. Thanks for being a part of what we've done this year. Really appreciate your time.
See you later. Ka kite.
Thanks, Mac.
From the Greens, that is Ricardo Menéndez March. Thoughts, Chewie? Any reflections? And by the way, Mr. Alex, I hope you took that. I was just having a bit of fun. There's specific questions, well, that's fine, but we were just. I thought it was a good question to actually ask him. So thank you for your question, Chewie. Any thoughts?
As far as Mr. Alex's question, I think it's a bizarre thing for Winston to throw out there as going, "This is our bottom line for coalition negotiations." Like it's just weird. Is that the best you've got, and you're going to mention it now, so far out from the election? Just nonsense. The way my first reaction when I saw that is, this is a man that's not sure that there's going to be a coalition for him to negotiate.
Yeah, an interesting point. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's me again being Nostradamus. We'll find out.
No, but the interesting point though.
The other thing I want to say, just circling back to this fucking such a dumb idea to try and push homeless people out of the CBD. It's almost like building 43. There's 3 social houses in this term of government isn't enough.
It's weird that, eh?
Like if this government announcement was, we're going to push all the homeless people out of Auckland CBD into social housing, fair play. But they're not doing that. They're just pushing them out. And that's it. That's the end of the story. It is typical, short-sighted, focused on the wrong people, and it's an old idea that is not going to work.
Well, because you've
this
started
government down to a T.
Yeah, because you've started it, we'll just roll straight into this, and then we'll do our super chats and stuff after this story. But yeah, interesting today. Rough sleeping ban in central Auckland considered by government. Government ministers have confirmed they are considering measures to move homeless people out of Auckland city centre, but the exact details remain unclear. Opposition parties and housing advocates have raised alarm over the prospect of an effective ban in homeless people in CBDs, warning that such an approach only displaces the problem and causes more harm. Asked about the possibility on Tuesday, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon told Parliament there had been, quote, no cabinet decisions or discussions on the topic. But on Wednesday, less than 21 hours later, he told reporters that the government was in discussion with, quote, lots of different stakeholders, end quote, in Auckland to improve the state of the city centre. Move-on orders would be one of the things that you'd want to be considering. But obviously, you've got to make sure that you've got the right support structures in place to support people as well. Now, I want to play the clip yesterday where he said no, 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 no. But the other thing that I saw in a few headlines was talking about begging or like asking for money, trying to ban that as well. And they very quickly are using a term like a move-on order, trying to make it sound like it's not sort of a crime. And the question that you need to ask back to anyone who says that is, so what happens if they don't move on? Well, then they get arrested. So it's a crime. Might sound nice, a move-on order, but what they're doing is potentially making homelessness in CBDs illegal. Chewie, I've got this clip to play from yesterday's house. It's a few minutes long, but do you want to speak to that at all before I hit play?
No, roll on. I want to see.
Roll on, McDuff. And I've given the full... and there's a question from Chloe in the middle. And Chloe says, when will the Prime Minister accept my invitation? I've cut that out. It was a great question, but I actually more wanted to see Luxon's response to Hipkins. So it's about 2 minutes, maybe a bit less than that, of Hipkins and Luxon jousting. And remember, this is yesterday, and Hipkins has asked him directly, are you considering it? And Luxon yesterday says no.
Is the government considering a law change to ban homeless people from central business districts? If so, why?
No, our government's doing everything we can to support people who are in homeless situations, and that's why you've seen 300 more places made available through Housing First. 100 of those 300 homes and accommodation has already been filled, 200 in Auckland. But of course, our government, our ministers will work with lots of people to see what else we can do.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Point of order, Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
It was a very straightforward question. Is the government considering a law change to ban homeless people from central business districts? If so, why? I didn't ask the Prime Minister what does he think about homelessness. I asked him specifically whether they're considering a change to the law to ban homeless people from CBDs.
Two parts of the question, two legs questions.
The Prime Minister did say that the government will do what they can. I would like to know if the Prime Minister could elaborate on that to answer that specific part.
I'm quite comfortable answering one of those legs or those two legs on that question.
Supplementary.
I'm quite comfortable answering one of those legs in those two legs of that question, whatever the fuck that means.
Good language, buddy.
Good English.
Super.
It makes me think of that, what's his name? The guy on The Simpsons who sticks his finger up his nose, Wiggum, the young Ralph Wiggum. And he goes, me fail English.
Christopher Wiggum.
Me fail English, that's impossible, which is kind of what I think when I hear that kind of language.
Question. Is the government considering a law change to ban homeless people from central business districts?
There have been no cabinet decisions or discussion on that topic.
No cabinet decisions, fine, or discussions. So these ministers today who are saying we're talking about it are implying that they had those discussions but not in cabinet. I struggle to find that believable.
Supplementary question. Has the Cabinet discussed a law change to ban homeless people from central business districts?
In answer to the answer I just gave the member for his last question, no.
If booting people out of emergency accommodation has fixed the homelessness problem, why is the government now considering changing the law to ban homeless people?
Well, I reject the characterisation of that question because here's the deal on housing. This government has delivered housing affordability.
Big boys doing big jobs, yeah, Mr. Luxon.
For people who want to purchase a house or to rent a house. This is the government that took 6,000 people off the State House wait list.
I don't think he thinks that's a win. Maybe it might be. I'm not sure.
And we fed them into a mincer.
That member increased it fourfold over 6 years. This is the government that took 3,200 households out of emergency housing, and this is the government that's doing a lot to help homeless support. Our record, yours any day.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, a weird one. Talking, because Luxon basically bragging how many people that they've taken off like the emergency roles. That doesn't mean you solve their problems. You did a thing. It's like when me and Chewie have talked about in the past, you know, if you throw a drowning person a masonry brick, you've done something. Please just do something. Well, we did something, but guess what? Made the problem a lot worse, but we still did something. If taking them off the list meant you going with your permanent marker by not actually helping them, then you've made the problem worse, and that was never acknowledged. Anyway, Chewie.
Christopher Luxon sees the number on the list. He doesn't see the person behind the number.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk to them. He talks to his business mates. He talks to his supporters and donors. He runs from anybody that criticizes him, and he does not move in circles that he feels he doesn't belong or that aren't worth his time. This is not a man of the people. He has never shown an ounce of that. He sees the number on a list. He moves it to a different list. He gets rid of the fucking list. The person remains in an empty shop doorway at night.
Chris Bishop said something interesting today, and actually you've just made me think about being of the people. Chris Bishop attempted to make a joke in the House, and one of the things he said about John Tamihere was how he was a millionaire, and then scoffed that meant he wasn't a man of the people. And I'm just thinking, for the first time, has he met his Prime Minister? Like, has he met his Prime Minister? If money equals man of the people, then his leader is so much further removed than someone like John Tamihere. Yeah, you reminded me of that today.
This is the lesson, right? Up until now, National have been happy to only listen to their donor, or their donors, the property owning class in this country, because that has worked for them. They have a massive war chest of donations from people who don't want to be taxed, don't want to pay for hospitals for disgusting, gross, poor people. And it's worked for them. And if there's a lesson that we need to take out of what's just happened in New York, and it's something that we've said right from the get-go, there are more of us than there are of them. And like Ricardo said, if we don't have 500 grand to donate to a political party of our choice, then the other thing that we have is our time and our effort to actually do something. Now, traditionally, New Zealanders are not great at this. But maybe this is the year that, whether it's for Greens or Te Pāti Māori or Labour, that we actually get out there and put boots on the ground and do something more than just fighting on Facebook about who's the better government.
Yeah.
Because that'll put the shits up the property owning class. Historically, that's never ended well for them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. All right. Now, apologies that we haven't got to any chats yet, but as I said, we kind of felt like we rolled into that conversation straight out the back of the other one. So we'll do them now. Citizen Gold says 409 days at most of this hateful government. Banning rough sleeping is not a fix. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew says Mamdani's proof of concept: organise, tell the truth, offer concrete fixes to neoliberal failure, win. Our turn, New Zealand. Left, let's effing go. Ryzen just says rest in peace, Cheney. Long live the Zohranistas.
I think you might want to reread that, Pat.
Rest in piss, Cheney.
Yeah, you said peace.
No, I think I said piss. No, I read piss.
We'll play the tape back.
Okay, I read piss. If my mouth said peace, maybe it was just it's my Otago accent. Maybe I read piss. All right, fair enough. Cheney was such a dick.
5 minutes.
Shut your face. Cheney was such a dick, says Kiwi Bird. Kiwi Bird also says too expensive to live in the area and pay too little. plus pay too little, plus hours too long, plus asking for experience beyond what the job requires equals low employment. Yeah, I mean, there's other places as well, but because Queenstown is such an isolated, like, you know, every area, every town, every city in particular has very wealthy areas, but normally you can go 4 suburbs over and it's not quite so expensive. So if you can't afford to live in the middle of Newmarket or Remuera or what is it, Cuba Street in Wellington, what would be the richer areas in Wellington? Maori Hill in Dunedin. It doesn't matter because you can live two suburbs away and still work there. But Queenstown is a microclimate of all the problems. Their average house price was announced this week at 1.6 million. Their average, 1.6 million.
And if you're just a worker there, just in a shop or something like that, like you hear stories, especially in winter, of a 4-bedroom house with like 18, 20 people in it, hot bunking, mattresses on the floor, working at the ski fields or working in a local bar or something. It's shit.
Yeah, and that's kind of the difference with, I think, probably Queenstown from maybe almost anywhere. Other places you have accessibility to be able to live in an area that's not quite so expensive. But then the question is, should you have to? Should you have to live in an area that's not quite so expensive? If I'm working in whatever expensive area X, should I really have to live 7 suburbs away? Why can't I work and live in the same suburb? That's another conversation to be had. Peter says this government itself is an economic crisis. Tiffany Twisted says, remember to vote and don't be fooled by the culture war. United we stand. Jonathan says, remember Parihaka today? Oh, yeah, Parihaka.
Yep.
All right, we're remembering it.
Yeah, if you've never read, I'm sure most of us have, but it's always a good time to read what went into that, because this is what the changes to the curriculum and the removal of New Zealand history is removing for the kids in school, is understanding our own history and how it is a straight fucking arrow to where we are now. P-A-R-I-H-A-K. I thought I'd just bring it up. Man, my keyboard's screwing up. Sorry, we won't do that anymore. Wellington Ruru says, high value exports? Sounds like communism. Ian says, ashes and sackcloth for being late and for being too cheap to buy 150 letters in which to formulate my intended question for Craig Rennie last week. Over Red Rover, got $400 worth of fireworks in storage from 10 years ago. That sounds like an accident waiting to happen. Had nowhere to let them off. Maybe I should get a license for mortars. I still can remember back to when I was a kid. You know, they had double happies. They had Tom Thumbs, which were like little double happies. And I remember going to a garage sale. And for people who are too young, double happies are like little sticks of dynamite. And they had ones that I guess were about, if a double happy was, what's that? We'll call that 4 centimeters, maybe 5. They either in a bag in a garage sale at a house 2 doors down from me. They had ones that were maybe 12 centimeters high and probably, you know, I don't know, a good 1 centimeter diameter. And I bought them and they went bang. Big time bang. They might have been like you, that was 10 years ago and they've been sitting there forever. Beehive, gonna beehive from Guinea. And Over Red Rover says, this is the government that reduces the housing waiting list by shifting those on the list onto the street to be shooed along to? Yes. I think you've got the formula down perfectly. And Arvid says, away, away, Captain Comrade Chewie. Yes. All right. Shall we do our final story? Let's do our final story. Yes. Yes, we should.
Yes, we should. So this is Zohran Mamdani. It's been fantastic watching, you know, kind of Sam from the Majority Report and those guys who are based in America, who are very active in the DSA, going and just saying this guy from day one, being fully behind this. And it was so lovely to watch their live stream through the afternoon and just the utter joy that was in them. Now, the other thing that we're not going to cover off on so much on today is there was also a bunch of wins for the Democrats in other races as well. And it's going well for the Democrats when Fox News has to come out and say like, oh, this is not real. This is not, how can you say this is a referendum on Trump? This is not a referendum on Trump. And when they start saying that, like when the right people start complaining, like when people are complaining about capital gains tax and which people are complaining, you think you're sort of on the right track. Same sort of thing here. Right, let's have a look at this historic win.
New York has elected a left-wing socialist as its mayor. Zohran Mamdani beat independent Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. Ahead of the result, Donald Trump weighed in, saying any Jew that voted for the Muslim candidate was a, quote, stupid person. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has the story.
Zohran Mamdani's been the talk of the town in the lead up to the Big Apple's mayoralty race.
Who are you voting for?
Definitely for Mamdani.
Yeah, Mamdani.
And you're excited about him?
Yes, absolutely. Everybody excited.
Well, not everyone.
He's a radical leftist. He's a radical leftist.
So, who is he?
Socialism.
A young Muslim self-declared democratic socialist who stormed into the lead in the race to become New York's mayor using viral videos.
Every politician says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here?
And the ability to speak 5 languages to woo minority voters, and heading out clubbing last weekend to reach the young. But the prospect of millennial outsider Mayor Mamdani
New York is suffering from a crisis, and it's called halalflation.
Did upset some old school Democrats and President Donald Trump.
Didn't just upset some old school Democrats. Some old school Democrats today were saying, well, I guess we have to congratulate him. Like as in Hakeem Jeffries, I think, was one of the ones that was being talked about today. I guess we have to congratulate him. So, he has really put shit amongst the pigeons. Does that one work? No, that doesn't work either, does it? Anyway.
People have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better looking person than him, right?
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there.
But Mamdani refuses to be intimidated.
If you are elected, that is a very real threat that you're going to have to deal with. How will you address that after you're elected if you win?
I will address that threat for what it is. It is a threat. It is not the law. And too often we treat everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth as if it is already legal just by virtue of who is saying.
Trump even told Republicans to try and stop Mamdani by voting for another Democrat, his opponent, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent. But Mamdani was the clear favourite.
I'm freezing. You're red.
Even gaining votes from people who voted for Trump, despite the stark contrast between an ultra-conservative and a socialist. Because New Yorkers are feeling the economic pain.
Tell me why.
Because the city right now is a mess. And the food price is going up.
Born in Uganda, he was once a rapper. But now he's singing from a political song sheet and says he'll use it to reject what he calls Donald Trump's fascist ways.
Very interesting. Quite a good wrap up too there of all the comings and going. Really interesting. And the playbook is now there. The playbook is there for Americans, especially I think American voters and the Democrats, especially in urban centers, the bigger cities, with places where the cost of living is hitting even harder. I remember when Bernie was, when Debbie Wasserman Schultz scuttled Bernie's chances by gerrymandering the DNC to allow Hillary Clinton to get nominated. I was like, these guys have missed a generational opportunity here to actually change the whole political system. Now, obviously, Zohran is not American born, so he can't be president. But if some on the American left choose to follow his lead, follow his songbook, follow his path, I think it's the ultimate in populism. And that's what you hear. I mean, I don't want to be too flippant about it. You know, if you're populist, you'll win. But that Trump is sort of like a fake populist because he has all the appearance and the things he wants to do of being populist, but then he doesn't do them. If you can actually be a populist and be authentic, like that word you used before, Chewie, and then actually educate the public that the policies and stuff you're talking about are actually, you know, both good, will make your life better, and are affordable, then it's a win-win-win, you know? Anyway.
Yeah, like I just hope that, well, the Democrats see the right messages in this, the right lessons. And I'm not confident that they will.
No.
I think there's too many of them that have been there too long and are too compromised by their donors and not the people. Any sort of victory like this in the American system should be seen for what it is, and absolute triumph. So yeah, hopefully this is, like, everybody looks at what's going on in the States. It is kind of ridiculous that we're all so invested in the mayoralty race for an American city. And we're like, I'm doing it. We're all transferring that situation onto our own situations. But I think you just have to boil it down. He's stuck to issues. And if he keeps doing that, like, well, the people of New York voted for me, I'm doing the things that I said I would for them, then it doesn't matter what Trump says. It doesn't matter what Trump does. Because that's not the game that Mamdani is in. Like, he's not competing in politics on a national level. He's not running for governor. He's not running for Senate or anything like that. That might come later. Who knows? But yeah, he's running the race that he's in. Lots of politicians don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the playbook is there. And I think the only thing about it is, like, I've seen this, Rajan mentions in the comments that it's the Democratic Tea Party moment. I think the difference is, again, authenticity. I don't think the Tea Party was authentic. I think they were grifting, and they found their position, and they basically knew what was popular, and that was the reason they did it. Because once they got in there, they basically just bent the knee and ended up becoming Republicans. But I think that this feels a little bit more authentic, if I can put it that way, and that it's actually who he is rather than the new political policy he's putting on. And so when you say other people can pick up the playbook, they do also have to be authentic in that belief, which means it's going to be really interesting for the squad. Obviously, Bernie's well past it now, but, you know, as a figurehead sort of thing, be really interesting to see if they pick up the baton and continue to run, because there was a lot of criticism around the squad kind of coming under the wing of the Democrats and not staying that progressive path quite so much. I think you've probably seen in the last 6 to 12 months with AOC getting back out there with Bernie that maybe they've made a decision to go back to that position. And yeah, it's always the thing, isn't it? It's like the Tea Party is a good example. The Tea Party held the Republican Party's feet to the fire, and they got a whole bunch of concessions. But the squad, per se, wouldn't hold the feet of the Democrats to the fire to get some concessions for the progressive left. I think with Zohran getting elected, and again it being shown again that it's popular, that hopefully the progressive left, the group that's in there at the moment, will use that power, especially if needed to pass legislation, should they win the White House again, to actually get some progressive things through. Hope so.
The other thing that I think it's worth noting, like, some aspects of the US media are absolutely spiraling on this. I think the New York Post, I saw something had a cartoon of Zohran holding up the hammer and sickle. Let's be clear, he's suggesting 36 city-owned grocery stores and free buses. Like, this isn't the fucking Lenin rides again moment. It's just sensible policy. Like, and again, it's like him saying, I'm going to raise taxes by 1 or 2% on the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers.
Yeah.
He does that and he gets that. But these guys will squeal about it, and it's the same here. It's a tiny fraction. They will probably spend more on donations to political parties rather than just pay it.
It's also what we heard you say with Mr. Seymour. You know, we've heard from enough parents that, you know, and we've heard from enough parents that it's like I said last night. What, that's 700? 700. Hearing from 700 parents would be a lot in your inbox. But comparing it to 5.2 or 5.5 million New Zealanders, it's not even a drop in the bucket. It's a drop to make up a part of a drop to go in the bucket. So yeah, it depends. It depends how it's spun as well. Yeah, there's another chat in here. Let's just get to this. Eddie says, late fee at the ballet. Nice. Mamdani makes me want to give back to my own community and volunteer my time for others less fortunate. I have hope again. Yeah, isn't that interesting, Chewie, what you've just said, that we're vested in the mayor of New York, and it's not just that we're vested in the outcome. It's actually it's doing something to people in New Zealand. Look what Eddie's saying. That the win in New York has given him hope. You know, that's crazy. Not crazy bad. That's crazy. And then maybe we can echo those words of Chloe Swarbrick when she's been on with us, but also I guess reiterated just now by Ricardo when they say the way you get involved, is to organise, is to door knock, is to volunteer. You know, it would be great to see if the BHN community could do some stuff next year, you know, on your own, but maybe we can help organise, like, you know, we can be a source, a place for the group to come to, but then in your own neighbourhoods and stuff, you can go back out and do what you need to do. And I think the door knocking and, you know, being involved in community schemes is probably one of the most effective, you know. Anyway. I've got a star. Oh, I broke my star. Oh, it's back again. All right. Do you want to know something about Facebook versus Twitter versus YouTube? Should I tell you something really interesting?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I put up this clip today, right? And this clip here is the one that we just played. All it is the argument between Chippy and Lux, and that's all it is. On YouTube at the moment, that full clip has done... I only put it up an hour or so ago, just before we came on, but it's done 203 views, so next to nothing. On TikTok, it's done 247 views. Guess what it's done on Facebook?
Oh, 6,000 or 7,000?
6,300. Good guess, man.
Oh, fucking, what a great guess. Get in.
Yeah. It's amazing. Something's happening in the algorithms in Facebook at the moment. I think Facebook is really trying to challenge YouTube for viewership. So it's really pushing content through to the end user. Now all they need to do is sort out content creators being paid for putting videos on Facebook. Because last month we did 1 million views and I think we received, not joking, $48 from Facebook. So there you go. Not a very good run rate, is it? Is there anything else we need to touch on? Maybe we should also do this while we're still here, eh? This is, of course, our new website. Next year, there'll be some changes to this website. I think what we're probably going to do is do some memberships and stuff to the website, like so to put, not put stuff behind paywalls, but like do newsletters and stuff. I think that'd be a really good idea. Like a weekly newsletter where we're up to what's going on. At the moment, the shop's linked on through here as well, so you can go straight to the shop. You can still go to bhnshop.nz, but you can come here as well. There are some delightful puppy t-shirts there at the moment, which several people have got themselves into. Yeah, there you go. And, of course, the new enamel's there. Now, Nikki Noboat's enamel is in New Zealand. I looked up it this evening, so it's in New Zealand on the way. We also, I wonder if I've got it. I haven't got it here on my table. We also, oh, hello, come back. That's my fridge. My fridge goes ding, ding. This turns off. We're also designing sort of a cardboard backing for the enamel, so you can buy like 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. We'll put them on this cardboard backing and then send the whole thing out to you. It's kind of cool. And if you want to be involved or you want to check out what we've got, it's a good hub. Remember, we've also got Friends of BHN there as well. If you're looking for some of your favorite contributors or content creators, we've got a list of people there as well. List of the other shows that has been made by BHN or primarily by me, and some down the bottom as well that were made for an exterior person, but made by the network as well. So that's all there. Yeah, and of course the Patreon is there if people want to get involved. I don't know what we're up to right now. We're trying to get to 500 paid patrons by Christmas. I'm not sure where we're at, but I thought we mentioned all that. And I guess just before we... Sorry.
Do you know what else we're doing? Do you know what else we're doing?
Anything to do with Halloween?
Do the podcast awards.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. See, that's why I'm on the page.
Have you voted for the podcast awards, Pat?
Have
you voted
not.
for us?
I've
you
not.
haven't?
No.
I have. I think we reversed it last time, and I left it to the last minute.
I was speaking to Emily today. We were talking about the Friday night potential event of that Christmas weekend. And she asked the same question. Can we vote for ourselves? I'm like, yeah, of course you can. We can vote for ourselves. And I said, how many email addresses have you got? And she goes, I think I've got 4. So, I'm not suggesting anything, but...
Yeah, you won't go to jail, though. No. It's not against the law.
The QR code in the top left-hand corner of the screen takes you to the Podcast Awards listener choice, listener vote choice thing. You need to name us, BHN. You need to say where you listen to us. I'm assuming YouTube's all right. Because, I mean, when you think podcast, you kind of think Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but, youtube.com/@BigHairyNews, I guess. Or if you're listening to the audio podcast right now and you can't actually see the QR code, then it's just nzpodcastawards.com/nominate. That's a good idea, though, Chewie. If you haven't done it yet and you're like me and like Chewie and you'll sometimes leave things to the last minute, get into it now. Because I think we stop voting in 10 days. Shall I check that? Does it matter? Does it matter?
Well, you don't want to vote after it's closed. That would be very embarrassing. Look at all of these good-looking people that have all voted.
Oh, look at you, darlings. Here we go. 14th of November. 14th of November, listener choice voting closes. Now, I don't know whether that means midnight on the 14th, which is technically the end of the 13th, or the 14th. So that means 8-ish days. So a week, just about a week to get your votes in. And then we'll see what happens.
That's pretty shameless. I'm happy with the levels of shameless that this plug has reached.
And I respect you guys. And I'm so thankful to you guys. I just swallowed that burp. I didn't do it into the microphone. I'm being respectful and stuff. All right, let's turn all that stuff off now. Banner. Put down YouTube. Yeah. If you're listening to the was stolen from me. I don't know what was said in that, but
what happened?
I was going to read it, but you stole it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just clicking through them all.
You were just clicking it. Yes. If you're listening to the podcast, you can click the link in the show notes. Right, Pat? Right? Do I have the link in the show notes? I should probably do that. That's actually quite a good idea. I should put in the show notes the links for the podcast.
Such a solid, obvious idea that we haven't been doing. It's great.
Yeah. All right. And I'm sorry. I know people are always waiting for us, but there's no dog tonight. She's upstairs doing dog things. I don't know quite what that is. Kiwi Spirit always tries to keep me level-headed. Yes, Pat. I can hear the tone. The tone's not, yeah, Pat. It's like, yes, Pat.
Yes, Pat.
Yeah, I hear it. Kiwi Skirt's coming to our Christmas party. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
Yes. Looking forward to that as well. I'm really looking forward to that weekend. It's going to be so much fun. We can't talk too much about it yet, but there is potentially an event happening on Friday night. The reason we can't talk about it is just some other things to line up. And if this event does go ahead, it'll be open to whoever wants to come along. I'm hoping I might know more about that. What day is it today? Is it Wednesday? Maybe even tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Might know some more about it tomorrow. And if you come along to the event, we might even do like a special on some merch at the event. Do some merch stuff. And Chewie, and we might film the event and then put it up on the interwebs. Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe. And that's all. There's nothing else.
Rest is secrets.
Yeah, rest is secrets. All right. I think it is time. Oh, there's Em's there. I'm also very excited about the Christmas weekend. Em's got the lowdown today, Chewie, as to the Friday night possibility. So I'm sure that's why Em's is excited about the weekend. Probably nothing else. You know what I'm excited about? I'm excited about Friday night. I'm excited about going to the markets on Saturday morning. So if anyone out there has got any kind of inroads with the weather gods, it needs to be perfect on that weekend in Dunedin. So just make it happen, please. And I'm excited about the barbecue because I've got secrets for the barbecue that no one knows about.
Is this where I remember what happened last time we had a barbecue, Pat?
We're not setting the house on fire.
We're not. Your entire deck.
I bought a barbecue scrubber the other day to make sure that didn't happen again. And I've used the barbecue twice already.
I'm going to bring a fire extinguisher.
All right. Is there anything for Auckland guys and gals of BHN, says Dot? Well, remember, we did do something with Auckland when we came up for the just a little award show. We come for an award show. Yes, so we've done Auckland, and Magenta has done stuff in Wellington, and we're hopefully doing stuff in Dunedin. So that means, if Emily had any kind of commitment to the show, she might choose to do something in Christchurch at some stage. I'm just joking. We'll definitely be doing some stuff next year. Definitely 100%. And we'll be getting around all the places. It's going to be fun. All right. There's another starred one. I don't know what I've done that makes Arvids proud of me. Oh, probably because I didn't burp into the microphone. Good. I get it. All right, team. Team Dream, the Dream Team, Dream Team. Dream Team.
Good.
The Dream Team.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
All right, team. That's it from me. Any words of wisdom to wrap up with Chewie, other than the top left-hand corner, that QR code?
Vote for us. Also, those of you in Dunedin, I believe there is a Green Party event this weekend. You've probably been sent invites and stuff like that. But hopefully I'm going. Yay!
Is it a Green Party one, or is it open to the public?
I believe it's a Green Party thing. I will talk to you after this.
Oh, sounds like secrets world. All right, team.
Well, I have to look at my emails.
Love you to bits. We'll see you tomorrow night from 9 o'clock for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.